Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment and asks what further steps is the government taking to increase the number of apprentices in New Zealand?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister announced that Budget 2014 will contain an additional $20 million to expand the government's very successful apprenticeship reboot scheme by an additional 6,000 places. The extra funding means a total of 20,000 apprentices are now eligible for the reboot scheme. Under the reboot, apprentices or trainees who sign up for training have been able to apply for a subsidy of $1,000 towards the cost of tools and off-job course costs, or $2,000 for those in priority trades. Employers are also eligible for a similar payment. The reboot is proving successful in getting more apprenticeships underway, especially in the priority trades we need for the rebuilding of Christchurch and the housing construction boom in Auckland. It is giving Kiwis vital vocational skills that will set them up for their working lives while meeting the needs of a growing economy.
Supplementary question, Colin King.
Supplementary to the Minister. What other actions is the government taking to increase the profile of apprenticeships?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, a big part of the vocational training story in New Zealand has always been apprenticeships, but under Labor the importance of apprenticeships slipped in favour of more generic industry training, which in many cases involved a lot of short courses and very low levels of completion, Mr Speaker. This government has created the new New Zealand apprenticeships, which are a premier vocational pathway into an industry-based career for New Zealanders. The new apprenticeships provide the same level of support, the same level of subsidy for all apprentices regardless of their age. We've increased funding support for each apprenticeship and boosted their educational content as well. This government is very committed in raising the skill levels of New Zealanders as part of our business growth agenda.
Supplementary question, Colin King.
Supplementary to the Minister. How does the government's work around apprenticeships feed into the wider employment picture in the economy?
Well,
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
That's a very good question, Mr Speaker. Today's Household Labour Force survey confirms that the hard work of New Zealanders with the support of the government over the past few years is paying off. 84,000 more New Zealanders are in jobs compared to a year ago. Mr Speaker, that's the largest growth in jobs in New Zealand in a decade. Labour force participation is at its highest level ever and now very much higher than Australia. Through our comprehensive business growth agenda, the government has a very strong focus on creating the opportunities for competitive businesses to invest and employ more people.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much. Supplementary to the Minister. What specific steps has the government taken to increase the number of women in apprenticeships, given the appallingly low levels in industries where there are significant skill shortages and temporary migrant labour is consequently required, such as building and construction, where only 1% of trainees in 2013 were women?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, well, the member raises a very interesting question in terms of occupational preferences of different people. The reality is, she is right, of course, that there are less people involved in the construction trades that are women than men. And many things I don't take a lecture from Trevor Mallard from you, and one is the English language. And the good news, though, for the member is that there are many more women involved in some of the higher level university study courses than men. So I'm sure it balances out over time.
Point of order, Carol Beaumont.
Mr Speaker, that made no attempt to answer the question about specific steps.
Order. It was a very long-winded question. The Minister's addressed it. I accept it may not be to the satisfaction of the member. If the member wants to take the matter forward, the way is to ask further incisive supplementary questions. Question number 5, Honourable David Parker. Order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he agree